Erica and Sharon are sisters who began their grief journey in 2006 when Erica's 10-year-old son Austin drowned. Together, they participated in a grief education program, were so moved by this experience, they studied and became specialists so they could help the brokenhearted find recovery. In 2015, tragedy struck their family once again when Erica's oldest son Donovan was killed in a motorcycle accident. Erica and Sharon are committed to sharing their experiences of love, loss, and healing through this podcast. Now your grief specialists, Sharon and Erica.
Great topic we have today, ladies. It is, all I want to do is have sex. I've just experienced the loss of a loved one, and this overwhelming urge to have sex has come upon me, and I don't know what to do with it. I honestly don't know why it's here. It's all I can think about. It's taking over all of my thoughts on a daily basis.
Yeah. It seems as though if you had to think about it, I would never put grief and sex together. That just seems like two completely foreign things, but it's actually more common than the average person might think. There's nothing perverted about it. There's nothing criminal about it. It happens. It's a real thing and it happens.
I feel like there's a joke in here somewhere that I should be telling. No, seriously, like this is just a joke. But the truth is, it is a completely normal response to the loss of a loved one, this overwhelming urge to want to have sex. And the reason being is because we are human beings that love to connect physically and emotionally. And often we intermingle that with sex right away. We feel that that's all we can think about, because part of it, Erica, is part of it is grief sucks and we want the pain to go away.
Yeah.
And so we feel as if I connect with someone emotionally or physically, that it will feel better and it'll get the suck out of the way.
Right. Think about the society we're raised in. When you're little, high school, you have a breakup. What does everybody tell you? The best way to get over someone is to get someone new. They encourage this thought process, right? On some level.
Plenty of fish in the sea.
Yeah, there's plenty of, don't cry over that one. You're going to get another boyfriend. Go get another one, So that feeling is there to have someone else, to connect, like you said, to have the physical contact with someone. And then because we are such a pleasure-seeking drone as humans, we're constantly on this search for pleasure. I mean, what's more pleasurable than the orgasm, right? I mean, it's like a no-brainer.
Right. So it's two things. So let's be clear on this. So we have this sudden urge to have sex, but that's different than using the sex as a distraction from the pain. So there's two things that can be going on here. One is we have this urge to feel close or feel loved because the pain is so overwhelming, right? But the other is I'm going to use sex as a distraction, pornography, sleeping around, having affairs, and doing everything I can to be on the chase of the sex to avoid the pain. They almost sound like the same, but they're really two different things. We use one as an avoiding technique, and one is this overwhelming urge that we're surprised when it shows up.
Right. And again, both are totally normal. I think if I wasn't in this grief profession and I was doing that, I would like there was something wrong with me. Like already grief makes you feel crazy, but then you add in something like this and you're like, oh my, there's something seriously wrong. This is totally normal. Ladies, if you take nothing away from this show, take away that it's normal. There is nothing wrong with you.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with you, for sure. One of the losses, when you experience the loss of a spouse, one of the things that you grieve is the loss of intimacy.
Yeah.
The loss of connection, the loss of your lover and your friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So surprisingly, we have clients that will go out and have sex immediately because they have this overwhelming urge. And that what they really want is to be with their loved one.
Right.
But at that point, it's like anyone will do. I just need to do this. I need to feel this. And then they come back with this. And what you and I are left to deal with is this overwhelming guilt of what they've
Yeah.
just done.
And there's no age limit on that. You would think that we were talking about, young. We're talking about 65, 70-year-old
Yeah.
widows
Yeah.
that are, I mean, because you have to think about that. You've had someone lying next to you for a minimum of 40 years, 40 plus years. Of course you want that again. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. You just don't want to put your hand over there and feel a cold sheet,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So one of the questions we get asked often is, when is it too soon for me to have sex? Can I start having sex? Can I start dating? I'm calling it sex, but it's, can I date? And sometimes, and the dating is taken out of it. We go right to the sex when we are having this urge. I mean, we literally go right to the sex. How do you answer that question?
I do a little, you have to have more conversation. You have to have more conversation and ask questions about, so you answer their questions with questions.
Yeah.
Which people hate, but because it's important for us to determine as the specialist, is this just something to avoid feeling the grief?
Yeah.
Or is this something that's going to replace that physical intimacy, like you said?
I agree with you 100%. We ask the questions because sometimes when they hear themselves say it out loud, they find the answer. They
Yeah.
find the answer for themselves. Here's the other thing. There's no right or wrong answer.
No.
There's no time limit. I'm not going to write you a prescription that says you are free to go and have sex. It could happen on the day that you found out your husband died. There's no right or wrong answer to this. There's what's right for you,
Exactly.
right?
Grief is unique and individual. We say that all the time. So you have to make the choice of what's right for you. It doesn't matter what your cousin or your coworker or your best friend did. It matters what you do.
How do you know if you're using sex to avoid feeling the pain?
For me personally, I always try to put myself in someone else's shoes. So if I were going to be doing that, I think if, there's always that, like, I'm going to go have sex, like almost to rip off the Band-Aid,
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it because I'm going to take that off the table. Then I don't want to have to focus on it. That's your thing because then you're done with it. You put it to rest, right?
Yeah.
But if you do it once and then you're constantly, then you're on Tinder and you're seeking out more and more people to have sex with, I think you're most likely trying to avoid the pain.
If you're filling in the blank with pornography, your blank time with pornography, it's
Yeah.
probably an issue. If you're going to 1-800-CALL-ME-BABE, you're probably filling in. You don't want to feel the pain. If you're stuck on Tinder all day long and just swiping through, you're probably not wanting to feel the pain. If it constantly consumes you and you don't think about the loss, you're probably not wanting to feel the pain. One of the other aspects that we see is the client, male and female, that become over sexualized in their talk, in their dress, in their appearance, in the comments that they make. It's totally out of character for them. Like, this isn't the normal way that they were, but now you see the cleavage line drop, and we see a lot of, they're okay with the sex jokes and the sexual posting. We see that a lot with clients. That wasn't their normal MO.
Right. It's very easy to get caught up into a avoiding behavior. For me, it was wine, but for some people, it's sex, and that it makes sense because you get to touch, you get to hold, you get to, do all the things that you're longing for. And also you get to lose yourself in another world for a while. Like you said, if you're during engaging in porn and all these other behaviors, you're definitely not thinking about the sadness.
What happens when we don't want to have the sex because our spouse has died for fear that we will be betraying them? And that, and this happens with young couples. I mean, years later, they still haven't gotten into a relationship for fear that they'll be betraying the other person, or that it's almost like having an affair.
Well, and for sure, I would say to that person, you're not ready.
Yeah,
Because if that's the feeling that's coming up, if you feel like you're cheating on your deceased spouse, you're not ready.
yeah,
You're forcing it. You're trying to do it too soon. And like I said, there's an element where people just want to rip the band-aid off. And they just want to, I just need to have sex with someone else so I can get that out of the way and I won't have to worry about it.
yeah.
Some people are wired that way.
I worked with a young man years ago, and he had found out that his father died. And he explained to me that this overwhelming urge, this was almost 14 years ago, his overwhelming urge was to have sex. And so he pulled out his little black book and started calling everybody in the book, like literally an hour after he found out his dad died, until he was able to find a girl who would come hang out with him. And he hooked up, and it blew his mind. And it almost took me aback the first time I heard that, because it was like, wow, that was your first thought. But that's what told me this is normal.
Right.
It's normal. But here's the deal, my friends. You have to answer this one question. Why? Why am I doing this right now? Slow down for a second and see if you can answer that question. It's whatever the answer may be for yourself. Answer that question, because it will help you with some of the feelings that you're trying to avoid.
I think that that's extremely important to really get in touch at what's underneath that need.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you do that, when you get to the layer that's underneath the need is no longer there.
Yeah. So we touched on this in our last show, so I'm going to bring it up here again. It is not uncommon for the spouse and our partners to have a separate sexual need at a time of grieving the loss of a child, grieving the loss of a parent, or grieving the loss of a job. Whatever the grief may be, it's not uncommon for the couples to have a separate urge or needs that they need to be met. And it can cause a problem in your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also when you're grieving and the desire for sex is no longer there in both. And then you start, then it 1 month turns into 6 months, turns into a year, and then, that's another thing of no sex and grief is another thing. It's like, that's a problem, because as we all know, and especially in a marriage, there has to be some level of intimacy. You don't want to turn into roommates.
Well, the other thing is that if the problem was already there
Right.
before the loss, the problem is still going to be there after the loss. Because I've had the loss doesn't make the problem go away. And because his urges are different than mine, or her urges are different than mine, doesn't mean it goes away because of the loss. All it does is put a spotlight on it.
Yeah.
Bam!
It definitely gives it you get a good excuse now, because the issue was there before, but now you have, it's grief. It's my grief.
Yeah.
You get to blame it on the grief.
Yeah. I think what happens with I can only imagine, but I'm going to throw this out there. I think what happens with this overwhelming urge is this overwhelming urge to feel love, to feel okay, to feel like I can live through this, to feel like, please make me forget about this pain for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Or 10 minutes, whatever it is. But to just distract also.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something, so like with wine, that's not something I could hide. Well, if I was hiding it, I knew that was a bigger problem. So I would,
Right.
But sex is something you could totally hide. No one would ever really know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's an avoiding behavior you can engage in, and no one around you is any wiser. So you could totally fake you know, like you're so well adjusted and you're handling your grief so well, but you have this deep dark secret. And that's another thing. If you're doing it completely in secret and you're not telling anyone, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. Definitely a problem. Um, that's why talking it out loud really helps. It really helps for you to get down to. You have to love yourself through this and allow the room for whatever's going to show up for you. Whatever is going to show up for you right now at this moment, right? If that means that this is how I'm going to cope with it and my partner is absolutely okay, then put it on its own shelf and keep it separate from your grief healing.
Right. Right.
Allow that that your needs might be different, and allow the space to, this is how I need to be right here, right now. Because there's no right or wrong.
No. No. And I'm mostly, I think that aspect is like in the couple realm.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about the widows and the widowers out there, that I'm thinking that the feeling, in addition to the longing for the loss of their spouse or significant other, fear.
Yeah.
The fear that they're trying to mask and run from.
Yeah. One, I think also is that some of the dark, deep urges that we never experienced in sex can also come up at this time. Going into sexual experiences that we've never experienced before, but now we decide we're going to go in and try them or do them almost to punish ourselves or punish our spouses, and be okay with it. Sometimes, and we need to be okay with this, sometimes the sex act comes out just for a fear, not a fear, but just for a punishment towards them. So
Yeah. Look what I'm doing. You left me, so
Yes.
this is what I'm going to do.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's why
makes sense.
That's why you have to answer the why.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Whatever your answer is to that why, be okay with that. Be okay with that, but sometimes it'll help you not to act in a way that you're going to feel bad about later. It will help you not to act. If you're having a problem and doing this in secret, find someone that you can share that with.
Right.
Sex and grief go together. There's no need for us to avoid this situation. It goes together. It's something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about.
I think this is an extremely important topic to put out there, because people wouldn't put grief and sex together ever. But this is real. We've learned a lot on going into our 15th year of doing this work. And one of the things is that this is very common.
Yeah. It's a common conversation that we have often. So examine your heart and see where you're at, and be open to talking about it and listening to others that are there. And I said it earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Love yourself. Love yourself through this. Love yourself and allow yourself the space to know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now at this point in the healing.
Right. And if you're receiving this message and it's going straight to your heart, there's some work there that needs to be done. Yeah. So stop dragging your feet, pick up the phone, call us, email us, because you want to feel good about your decisions. You know what I'm saying? You want to feel whole. And if you're just trying to mask, your sadness or your fear or your loneliness, you got to do some work.
Absolutely. Thank you, friends.
Bye, friends. Hi, friends. Erica Honore here with Healing Starts with the Heart. Sharon and I are so glad you joined us for another great episode of our podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We want to let you know, for more information, you can go to our website at healingstartswiththeheart.com. There you will find not only today's podcast, but all of our podcasts, along with our blogs, the information on the programs that we offer, and the Grievers Guide, which is something Sharon and I put together to document how we came to be your grief specialists. We also have a quiz to take to identify if you are truly grieving, And if you want to talk specifically with either Sharon or myself, you can schedule an appointment there. You will also find a place to join our private Facebook group at Hope, Heal, and Recover. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a great day, friends.